Welcome to Wisdom Inspired, a podcast designed to help high achievers to eliminate burnout and overwhelm. Now let's prepare to open our hearts, our minds, and our notebooks to receive today's wisdom. So we've been talking about boundaries, and we've been talking about the freedom of boundaries, protecting spiritual boundaries. And it's such an amazing topic. I am actually learning so much about myself as I remember some of the boundaries that I never set early on. But we're going to continue on the topic of boundaries because what we're discovering is that a boundary is a dividing line, a dividing line that marks the end of one property or jurisdiction and the beginning of another. And it creates the necessary space between individuals, and it defines expectations and shows respect for others. Another thing about boundaries that we're going to talk a little bit about today is that if you don't set good boundaries from the jump, it's going to be tough to pull in the reins later. I read an article that said it this way: if you always walk your dog with a short leash, they're fine with it. That's all they know. But if you start out with a long leash, it's a lot harder to suddenly pull in the reins. Now, this principle applies to all types of relationships. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about business relationships and clients, because it's much harder to set boundaries after you've demonstrated them otherwise, that you don't have any. And I remember a few years ago, I was working with a client doing some admin work. And when we first started working together, she thought I was just the best thing since sliced bread. And what I did was I made the mistake of giving her unlimited access to me. She called me on Messenger. She had my Google number, and all of that. So she had unlimited access to me. And if you know anything about Messenger, you can do video calls. So she would call me, and most times I wasn't prepared. She would just call me randomly via video. And this was my fault. I can't blame her because I did not set the proper boundaries. And so anyway, she really used that unlimited access to me, right? And then one day, she wasn't able to reach me. And when she wasn't able to reach me, it was actually because I was in a building where the signal was bad and I wasn't able to receive the call. But when the signal, got better and I looked at my phone, she had called me 4 or 5 times within a few minutes. So finally, I was able to answer. And let me tell you, she let me have it. She told me that I was not good at administrative work. She's been trying to call me. She went on to say things she was like, you don't understand. I had no idea where you were. I was trying to, find you. And she even said something like, you don't understand. People have died on me. I've had relatives that died. And I'm thinking, Houston, we got a problem because, I'm not sure where this conversation is going, right? But needless to say, we had to part ways, and it was an amicable parting of the ways. But I learned so much about myself in that. Again, that was my fault, because when you don't set boundaries, people will take advantage of it. And you'll wind up getting caught up in this vicious cycle, because you'll start giving more. You're giving more and more of yourself for less and less. And I've shared this with you all before, even when I was on staff at the church. I felt like I had to be available for everyone. I would get text messages after hours, during service, during the week. And one specific time, I had decided to spend time in the worship service. I was going to participate in the worship service that day. So I closed my office door, went into the sanctuary, and decided to participate in the worship service. And as I was standing there with my hands raised, I was going in. If you could see me, my hands are raised right now. And then someone tapped me on the shoulder and asked me if I could get something out of the office when I was done with worship. That's not her fault. It wasn't her fault. They were used to being accessible to me. Like, they were used to, and this person actually had my personal text phone number too, my personal number too. I had poor boundaries. And so I share these instances with you because I'm sharing this because I have experience in how not to allow yourself to get caught up in not setting the right types of boundaries. And so I wanted to share just a few indicators that will just kind of let you know that I may not have the right boundaries in place, or I may not have enough boundaries, or I may have poor boundaries. And so if any one of these things resonate with you, just say to yourself, I may have poor boundaries. Because if you feel yourself pulled in a million different directions and you're overwhelmed with long to-do lists, you may have poor boundaries. If you have clients that's constantly DMing you, texting you, emailing you outside of work hours, or requesting work above and beyond your capacity, you may not have good boundaries. If you find yourself spending so much time with client requests with no room or margin to work on big projects or goal setting or projections and show up in other ways in your business, you may have poor boundaries. If you say yes to requests and invitations because it feels easier to do than to say no, you may have poor boundaries. If you feel resentful of others for their demands on your time, you may have poor boundaries. If you feel like you're just running ragged, tired, and exhausted with no time for yourself, you may have poor boundaries. So here's a few things that you can do, and then we're going to close out the call. Number one, create structure around your boundaries. Determine what your non-negotiables are. Then create some systems and processes to make sure that you're honoring your boundaries. And you can use a calendar booking system to set your availability, like I didn't do, right? And you can pick the times that you want to be available. It's your business. You can create clear client communication processes listing your hours of availability. And I caution you to resist the urge of responding to texts and emails after hours. Determine what those urgent, what is deemed to be an urgent response, responding to something that's of urgency, okay? So create structure around your boundaries. Communicate your boundaries. And I know sometimes this could be a little scary, but it's something that will save you a lot of time. It will save you energy, and it will save you stress. I include my hours of operations and set communications of expectations in my contracts and in my covenants that I have with clients. And it's a part of my onboarding process. I usually will have a document that they will receive, and they have to sign it, okay? So communicate your boundaries and your expectations around that. And then commit to your boundaries. It does no good if you've done all of that, you've created structure, you are communicating your boundaries, but you're not committed to them. Because people will test you. And sometimes you'll be tempted to give a little wiggle room. But I caution you to proceed with caution and use discernment. And don't be afraid to charge additional fees for rush projects or requests outside of your business hours and things like that. Stand in your truth and own it. And those who are not willing to respect your time and your boundaries, feel free to send them packing. So, I hope today's wisdom has inspired you. I hope you were empowered by today's call and encouraged to apply these practical steps in your business. And make sure, as Coach Dorothy said, go to wisdominspired.net to find the links to all the platforms where you can listen to the previous episodes, subscribe, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to know more about our virtual community and how you can benefit from the resources and transformational coaching, send us an email to hello@aaccoworking.com. With that said, meet us back on the line next time, same place, same station, with more Wisdom Inspired. Have a wildly productive day.
I hope you enjoyed the episode of Wisdom Inspired that was brought to you by the AAC Co-working Community, a virtual community designed to support female entrepreneurs, business owners, and freelance professionals. For more, go to wisdominspired.net.